Welcome back to PS Chronicles. Today, we will talk why India can't be ignored. The date is February 25th, 2026. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi touches down in Tel Aviv. The world is watching as Modi steps onto Israeli soil. Over the next 48 hours, a historic handshake takes place. India and Israel sign an $8.7 billion defense and technology deal, elevating their relationship to a special strategic partnership. The pact elevates India and Israel to a special strategic partnership focused on missile defense, AI, and cybersecurity. But just 48 hours later, the geopolitical chessboard flips. Joint military strikes are launched against Iran. The Middle East plunges into chaos, and the Strait of Hormuz becomes a flashpoint. Right in the middle of this boiling cauldron stands India. Did New Delhi know the strikes were coming? Perhaps. One thing is certain: India is no longer a bystander in global conflicts. It is the anchor. Today, I'm breaking down the 2026 geopolitical landscape and exactly why, in a world on the brink of war, India cannot be ignored. To understand India's leverage today, we have to rewind to a show of force the world didn't expect: Operation Sindoor. When regional tensions flared in 2025, the Indian Navy didn't just issue statements, they issued a fleet. INS Vikrant led a battle group armed with BrahMos supersonic cruise missiles and was combat-ready in under 96 hours. This was a message, loud and clear, and the new defense budget backs it up. In February 2026, the Indian government allocated a record 7.85 lakh crore rupees to national defense, accounting for nearly 15% of the union budget. India is no longer just the world's largest arms importer. It is rapidly becoming the arsenal of the East. In the last fiscal year, India's defense production hit an all-time high of 1.5 lakh crore rupees. Defense exports smashed past the 23,000 crore mark. From selling BrahMos missiles to the Philippines and Indonesia, to exporting Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launchers to Armenia, India is shifting the global arms trade. When a nation goes from buying weapons to arming its allies, the balance of power fundamentally changes. But power projection isn't just about missiles, it's about survival. Look at the map. The Strait of Hormuz is a narrow 21-mile choke point separating peace from global economic collapse. A staggering 50% of India's crude oil flows through these waters. If the current conflict shuts down this strait, the fifth largest economy on Earth faces an existential energy crisis. India's strategic reserves hold enough oil for roughly 9.5 days. But India isn't waiting for a crisis to happen. The Indian Navy's destroyers and P-8I Poseidon aircraft constantly patrol 1 million square miles of ocean. India doesn't just buy oil, it guards the routes it travels on. Then, there is the human cost. Over 10 million Indian citizens live and work across the Gulf nations. 4 million in the UAE, 2.5 million in Saudi Arabia, hundreds of thousands in Kuwait and Oman. If the 2026 Middle East conflict escalates into an all-out regional war, these people are trapped. Airspaces will close, sea routes will become contested. Evacuating even 10% of this diaspora would require moving 1 million people. No country has ever attempted logistics on this scale. It is a nightmare scenario, and it is exactly why India is fighting so hard to mediate peace in the region. While the West focuses heavily on the Middle East, military planners in New Delhi are staring at a terrifying geometry, a three-front threat. To the west, the Persian Gulf is on fire. To the north, the line of actual control remains a heavily militarized standoff with China. And to the northwest, a volatile Pakistan armed with over 170 nuclear warheads. China is not hiding its ambitions. In early 2026, the Chinese Navy continued its push into the Indian Ocean, deploying advanced Type 0055 destroyers. Their String of Pearls strategy naval outpost surrounding India is fully operational. To counter this, India has activated its S-400 missile defense shields and restructured its military into integrated theater commands. Beyond the land and sea, the government has heavily invested in deep tech, artificial intelligence, and space-based warfare. Space is the new high ground, and India is claiming it, with massive plans to deploy dozens of military satellites by 2030 for real-time tracking of enemy movements. But despite the warships and the hypersonic tech, India's most dangerous and effective weapon is its diplomacy. It is a doctrine called Strategic Autonomy. In a world forcing countries to choose sides, India chose leverage. In early 2026, India imported nearly $2 billion worth of crude oil from Russia, keeping its domestic economy fueled despite Western pressure. At the same time, India and the United States deepened their military interoperability, with the US considering India its most vital counterweight to China. India recently signed a 10-year agreement to develop and run the Chabahar port inside Iran to secure trade access to Central Asia. In the same month, Prime Minister Modi flew to Tel Aviv to sign an $8.7 billion defense pact with Israel. India also maintains deep trust with the Arab Gulf states, recently hosting the India-Arab Foreign Ministers meeting. No other nation on earth can pull off this diplomatic tightrope. At the Munich Security Conference in 2026, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said, "India's foreign policy is nimble, dynamic, and unapologetically focused on national interests. Every single major power needs India to survive the coming decades. Russia needs India's economy to survive Western isolation. The United States needs India's military to contain China's expansion. Israel needs India's massive tech and defense market. The Global South looks to India as its voice against outdated Western institutions. India is not picking a side in the global conflict. It is becoming its own pole in a multipolar world. The lines between domestic growth defense manufacturing and aggressive diplomacy have vanished. India has arrived, and the global world order will never be the same. Thank you for tuning with me. If you found this geopolitical deep dive valuable, hit that like button, subscribe, and let us know in the comments. Can India's diplomatic balancing act hold up if World War III breaks out? See you in the next one.